I think people see the opportunity right now. Equity firms see the opportunity. I think clinics are seeing the opportunity. But I think what we're going to see here in the near future is where you have equity firms coming together right now and trying to purchase practices. I think you're going to see a lot of good, and I think you're going to see some tough times for people. I think some of the folks that are getting into this business and maybe they don't have the healthcare experience, maybe they're not used to working with doctors, maybe they haven't thought through how they're going to support from a management standpoint, and they're bolting a practice to a practice where there's no real meat or connection or value in that management team. I think you're going to see those groups have a difficult time through some of these transitions, right? And sometimes there's a lot of fear when equity comes to the table, right? We get that a lot, right? We're not coming in to change your brand. We're not coming in to change your processes. We're coming in to build value, to make those connections, focus on best practices, relieve that back office pressure so that you can do what? You can take care of your patients and that you can grow.
Hello and welcome back to the Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And today is no exception. Today in the studio here we have Mike Burke. Hi, Mike.
Hello, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. He is the president of Athenix, and we're going to be hearing all about Athenix today and all about Mike. And where'd you fly in from?
I flew in from Denver, but this is my 8th flight this week, so I've been a few places, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
started in North Dakota, went to Scottsdale, because we opened a clinic there this week. Went to Austin to take a look at a practice. Went to Philadelphia area.
Wow.
Back to Denver and here to LA this morning.
You're
to
a busy camper.
Yeah.
I don't think you opened a clinic. I'm pretty sure you opened an office.
We opened a center.
I'm
working on that. You are correct.
Center.
I opened a center this week. Yeah, on Tuesday.
So, well, welcome. Thank you for coming. I've been wanting to interview you for a while. And but first, let's get to know Mike Burke. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Colorado.
Yeah? What part of Colorado?
Born in Wyoming and moved to southeast Denver when I was 2. And I've been there ever since.
Are you a cowboy?
I am not a cowboy.
Okay.
Not a cowboy.
So you grew up in southeast
Denver area.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then where'd you go to college?
I went to college in Denver, a place called Regis University.
Okay,
So,
what'd you major in?
business administration.
That's appropriate.
With an emphasis in management.
And then what was your first job?
My first job was a forklift driver.
No,
pre-college.
Okay. First job after college.
So while I was going to college,
Okay.
I was a night shift machine operator in a medical device manufacturing facility. And I stumbled into it. It was a lucky stumble, but they helped pay for school. I worked nights and went to school during the day. And my first job was actually before I graduated college there, and I became a supervisor from a night shift machine operator, which led to my next 12 years in the medical device industry.
And who'd you work for, medical device? Would
So
I recognize the name?
Cope Cardiovascular was the first one back in the year 99. And they specialized in open heart surgery. So
Stents.
when they stopped your heart for open heart, we pumped and oxygenated the blood. So I was
the extracorporeal heart-lung machine?
the heart-lung machine, yes.
Right.
And I was on the consumable pack side working in an injection molding facility. So,
Wow.
yep. And it was my first experience. So, you come into work and you're trying to get through school and you're working nights and it's just a job, right? And I remember it was 9 months into my job. My sister has a baby, and that baby's born with a hole in his heart and damaged valve. And he had to go in for open heart surgery shortly after he was born. And I remember our family's there. We're terrified, right? Of course.
Sure, of course you are.
And the cardiologist and the perfusionist came out, and I said, "Hey, what equipment do you guys use for the surgery?" They said, "We use Cope Cardiovascular." And I remember thinking, oh crap, like that's the first time my job became real for me. And we were the patient, right? And it was life and death. And from that day on, I fell in love with the medical device world and what that equipment did for our family and for my nephew, who's doing very well. He's 21 years old, married, all that good stuff. But that's a story that stays with me my entire career. And ever since then, I have always been in life-saving, life-sustaining, and now life-changing world for folks. So I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's in your face here and now.
Yep.
Bet you went to work the next day and talked to all those people on the line and reminded them to do the best job they can do.
Yeah, it's a different mentality. It wasn't just a job anymore.
Right.
It was what we did was important and mattered.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, what happened after that job?
So I went to this little startup company in Denver, a dental company called ClearChoice Dental Implant Centers, who they're very prevalent today on TV and things like that. But at the time, they were a startup dental company specializing in full mouth restoration. So
that's
people
ClearChoice.
ClearChoice,
okay.
Yes. And so their home office was in Denver. I started there as a manager running their Denver clinic, which we believed at the time was the best dental practice on the planet. And they specialize in life-changing procedures. These folks that were our patients were humiliated. They were embarrassed. There was obviously something physically wrong with them, but what it did for their hearts and minds when these people come in with no hope, humiliated, and what we were able to provide them was a powerful thing. And I did that for about 10 years, which led me to the plastics world, but very similar, right? Where in the plastics world, and you know this better than anybody, right? You can physically look better, but what it does for your heart, in your mind, in your life, it's a life-changing experience, and I feel fortunate to be in that world every day.
That's great. Yeah, I refer to it sometimes as psychosurgery.
Yep.
We're actually operating between their ears.
That's right.
Even if we're
That's
operating
right.
on their tummies or
That's
wherever we're operating, the things that bother them. Because we're in the business of restoring confidence.
Yep.
Or creating confidence,
Yep.
and that changes everything. But let's go back to you. Okay, so ClearChoice, you were there 10 years.
Yes.
You had to have been doing more than running one practice.
Yep. So I was an office manager there for a while, practice manager, and then I moved into the management team world, right out of the clinic and into the management team, where I was vice president of operations, eventually a chief operating officer, a president of one of the divisions, and along the way we experienced just tremendous growth. So, when I started, we had a few clinics. We were less than 10 clinics at the time.
Okay.
And I think when I left there about a year and a half, we were 70 plus clinics, 30 plus states, and changing a lot of lives.
Yeah. Where does Lattis Work Capital fit into ClearChoice?
So they actually don't.
They don't. Okay.
They don't.
I wasn't sure.
I had a childhood friend, if you will, that is close with Lattis Work, and he's on one of their boards. And Lattis Work acquired the Athenix brand about 2 years ago, and they were looking for someone to come in on the board and be not an operating partner, but represent operations on the board. And my friend that I knew said, "Hey, you need to talk to my buddy Mike." And if you know Steve Newman at Lattis Work, right?
Yes,
he founded it, and he said, "Yeah, sure, I need to talk to your buddy Mike," right? And then he said, "No, my buddy Mike actually runs operations for ClearChoice." And Steve was very familiar with that story. So we went from a few clinics in 2009 and really successfully grew that business with an equity partner that joined us in 2012, where we had 28 clinics or so. And then you move forward to 2017, we had 50-some clinics and just a wonderful equity transaction for everybody. And then we grew it another 20 clinics. And in 2020, which was a very difficult, crazy year, transacted again, where Aspen Dental ended up buying us on another very successful deal. So,
and you were managing the practices and doing that?
Yeah, at that time, I was the president of the Eastern Division, which we were responsible for $300+ million a year in that region. And I got contacted by Lattis Work about a board position. And I met Steve Newman, Lattis Work, and we started talking about this opportunity. And he said, "Hey, I don't want to talk about the board anymore. I want to talk to you about coming on and being the COO for this company." And I said, "You know what? Not interested. Love ClearChoice," which I do. It had been great. And he said, well, why don't you tell me about that? And so we started talking through and talking to Lattis work team, Steve Newman, about the opportunity, not just the opportunity, about what they're about, right? Lattis work, they do nothing but healthcare. You spend any time with them on their philosophies, their culture, their focus, the way they want to serve these clinics and centers, and you throw that on top of just the opportunity and the ability to help people. It was something I couldn't turn away. And I quickly resigned and have been here for about 1 year and 4 months.
So he stole you away then?
He stole me away. Yep, stole me away.
Interesting.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yep.
That's fascinating. Okay, so at that point, had Latticework Capital already negotiated with and closed with Marina?
They had not. They were in conversations with them. So I started in June of 22.
Okay.
And you know the Marina story very well, as you were the owner and you built it and founded it. And we ended up partnering with Marina Plastic Surgery in October of 2022. So we just passed our 1 year anniversary with that team. Okay. And that was our first acquisition. So Athenix was 5 clinics, all West Coast based, 3 in California, 1 in Oregon, 1 in Washington. And then we partnered with Marina Plastic Surgery in October of 2022. That was the first one. It was a very important one for us, right?
Thank you.
As it, not only was it our first acquisition, right, with a wonderful practice, with wonderful people, Dr. Stevens wasn't gonna practice anymore. That was part of the deal, which was a little scary to us.
But I came on the board.
You did come on the board, but the neat thing, one of the many neat things about your practice, right, although we didn't get you day to day in the operating room, we got your team that you had built, many of them going back 20 plus years, right? We got Dr. Perez as a partner, and for those of you that don't know Dr. Justin Perez, he is just fantastic.
He's a rock
He was
star.
a fellow of yours. He is a wonderful clinician, all about his patients, all about his employees, all about the culture, all about being a great partner, all about growing that business, and he is absolutely a pleasure to work with. So that was a big deal for us, right? It was our first acquisition. We didn't call it Athenix, right? We don't come in and change your brand, right? So we had the Athenix brand at that time with our 5 clinics, and we added another brand, Marina Plastic Surgery, with a wonderful team 1 year ago. So we just passed that 1 year anniversary. And then all at the same time, we got you, right, on our board. And as my partner, and
Yes.
I never know where in the world you're going to be, but you always answer or you always call me back.
100%.
As I'm newer to this industry, and you not only help teach, but you help connect.
So
and
let's
so
go
many
right to
other
the
things.
Houston practice. Tell everybody about the acquisition of Houston.
That one just makes me smile.
Yep.
So
Tell them what's the name of it.
It's called ACPS. It's in Houston, Aesthetic Center for Plastic Surgery. If you're ever on a United flight, they are full page ad on every United plane in the world right now, every month. So that was that group. I went out for a visit to visit them in Houston. It is a large practice, right? Like if you take the 5 Athenix centers and the Marina Center and put them together, Houston about doubles us up, right? If not more. So they have 7 doctors, but it's much more than that. It is, I went there on our first meetings. I went there for due diligence. I came out there and I said, I've never seen anything like this. It's the most impressive operation I've seen in my life. It really is. And you have wonderful doctors, you have wonderful clinical staff, you have wonderful coordinators, you have wonderful business leaders, and it all comes together. And you know, as we're talking about partnerships and with you, right? One thing we talk about is culture. Culture is absolutely critical, right? We talk about we want to partner with people who put the patient first. We partner with people who put their employees first, right? I don't know how many 20 plus year employees you have in Marina, but they're still there, right? And then we talk about the health of the business. We want to partner these groups and connect them. And my job's simple. My job is to serve the doctors, serve our centers, and it's all about servant leadership, right? And we are your professional management team to provide services to you. So you don't have to be your own CFO anymore. You don't have to be your own marketer. You don't have to be your own HR. You don't have to be your own sales expert, whatever it might be, so that you can do what you do best, and that's take care of your patients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And take care of your employees. And so the ACPS deal closed about 4 months ago.
And who are the doctors involved in the ACPS deal?
There are several of them. Dr. Mentz is you guys,
Mentz.
Henry Mentz. You guys go way back. You have Dr. Hustak, Dr. Newell, Dr. Petronella, Dr. Fortes, Dr. Rodriguez, and Dr. Morales, who I just had dinner with in Austin this week.
That's fabulous. So 7 doctors, huh?
Yes, and they have a fellowship with 2 fellows right now.
That's right.
Which is critical, as does Marina Plastic Surgery.
That's right.
Yep.
You know it. So you also just acquired and closed that practice, that wonderful practice in Denver of Dr. Vath and Dr. Wolf, right?
Yes, Center for Cosmetic Surgery. So they are in Golden area with their surgery center, and then they have med spas throughout the area as well.
Okay.
And they are fantastic. They are a Houston caliber, big, healthy practice with doctors that align culturally, growth mindset. They want to grow. They want to build. And the key with all these groups that we're dealing with, they can't wait to meet each other, right? So I was with Dr. Morales in Austin this week, right, out of ACPS, and he's highly successful. And we were meeting with a group, and he happened to pick me up for the ride, and he said, I'm so excited about this Denver group, and I can't wait to go learn from what they're doing, right? And that's the mindset of all these groups, right? If you talk to Denver, you mentioned Dr. Vath, Dr. Wolf. Dr. Vath happened to be one of your first fellows. I don't know that he was your first, but one of your first fellows.
One of my early fellows.
And if you talk to those guys, they can't wait to see what Houston has to offer. So that's pretty special when you have groups that are highly successful, that have figured out how to do it. They do it a little bit differently and can't wait to connect and share. And that's really where you get the opportunity where 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 3 or 4, right? And we're partnering with blue chip practices, blue chip doctors that want to learn and want to grow. And it's very special. So I get to go. That deal just closed on Tuesday. I get to go spend time with that team next week on Wednesday, and I'm very excited about it.
That's fantastic. Now, we know in the aesthetics space now that there are a lot of roll-ups going on.
Yes.
There are a lot of entities that are trying to roll up practices.
Yes.
Could you share with all of us what, in your opinion, what distinguishes the group with Lattiswork Capital? What makes your group unique?
Yeah. I think we're very difficult to compete with, and we're going to be very difficult to compete with. I think it starts with the team that we're putting together, right? So we have Lattiswork Capital, and I mentioned this a little earlier. They do nothing but healthcare. I've worked with several equity firms over the last 10 plus years. This team, they let you run your business, right? And they're truly there to support. I was just talking to them yesterday. They don't support us every month. They don't support us every week. They're supporting us every day, right? And they're great at what they do. And when we need resources, they engage those resources. And so I think it starts with the equity firm and what they're about, right? I think you have a bunch of equity firms right now trying to purchase a practice and bolt them together without the right infrastructure. And I think that's where we have a difference. So starts with the equity firm. The second piece is your management team, right? And your management team is critical. And I think that's critical for people to know as they start to explore is what's the management team about? So I don't work for Lattiswork Capital, right? Lattiswork, I run the vertical, which is Athenix, and they are investing heavily in a management team. So we have a CFO, we have a CMO, I'm the president, we have a vice president of sales. We have the infrastructure to be that professional management team that really supports those clinics with servant leadership, right? And so management team is critical. You know, I talked about the ClearChoice experience, right? Where we went through 3 different equity firms, right? The nice thing is our centers didn't feel an impact when those equity firms changed because that management team that's in place stays with that company, right? So as we're talking to doctors, and we're out talking to a lot right now, and there's a big third element, which is the board of directors that we're putting together that is just unrivaled, I believe. But that management team is critical. I don't know if people necessarily, as they start to explore this, they think, okay, it's an equity firm. That is true. Pick one that aligns with you, that aligns with your values, that aligns with your vision, that aligns with what you want to do. Pick a management team that does the same thing. And the thing I'm proud of about our management team, we're assembling a crew and have assembled a crew that works with doctors, that knows how to grow these businesses. I think one of the challenges we run into with all these groups that we're looking to acquire, many of them are highly successful and they've built one location. Mm-hmm. And that doctor's there and it's a little easier to manage because your people are there, you're built on a lot of talent, and the people that are gonna solve the riddle here are the ones that can take what you have in a Marina Del Rey. They can take what you have in a Houston, take what you have in a Denver, and put it 2 or 3 states away, right? Mm-hmm. And how do you maintain those systems and culture and progress when you're not there running it anymore as the lead doctor, right? And I think that's really where this management team has a lot of expertise. The management team, we put the doctors first. They're our clients, right? They really are.
And your partners.
And our partners. And we need to treat them as such. And so that sets us apart. And the third thing I mentioned is the board of directors. And if you look at the board of directors that we have, including you and starting with you, Dr. Stevens, we have a group of folks who, on the management team and on the board of directors, who it's pretty unusual to see that talent in that pool of people working at a company this size and this early in their development, right? But many of them come from highly successful businesses where we've grown, where we work with doctors, and it's just a powerful, powerful thing.
And the other thing about Lattiswork Capital that really impresses me is their experience. They've done this for years, in many verticals. Even though aesthetics this is the first time they've done the aesthetics vertical, but they've been around for 8 years and they've been in healthcare for many more years than that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Doing this. And I know that's one of the selling points for me when I got involved in them. And I couldn't be happier that you're the president. And I agree, it is the quality of the positions, it's the management team, and it is the board.
Yep.
And it's going to be a fun ride. So tell me, speaking of fun
Can
ride.
I say one more thing on that?
Yeah, sure.
Just speaking of these partnerships that we've recently closed, right? As you do look at the board, as you look at the equity firm, as you look at the management team, I think, your initial point here was there's a lot of equity firm interest in this industry now, right?
Yes, indeed.
And I think that one of the things that I'm most proud of, a lot of people talk a good game and tell you what they're going to do or what it's going to be. And as you're dealing with, if you're a doctor out there considering a move like this, check into that, right? And I think one of the things that we're very proud to say that we said to Houston when we were talking about that deal was, hey, they told us they loved what we were saying. Mm-hmm. I said, let's take it a step further. Please call Marina Plastic Surgery, right? And ask how their experience with us has been, right? And as we moved into the Denver deal, we said the same thing. Call, Dr. Mentz, call Dr. Morales, call that team and ask them how their experience has been. And I think what's come from that is something we're very proud of. We're very proud of the partners we're with, but if you take a look at a Houston ACPS group that was in high demand from equity firms, I believe they had 10 offers that I know of, and they picked us, right? And we may not have been the highest price. I don't know. We're always very competitive, but they picked us, and they said it came down to the people. It came down to your alignment from a cultural standpoint, from a value standpoint, from a focus standpoint, and that's why they picked us, right? A few weeks ago, as we're getting close on this Denver deal, I was just in contact with Dr. Vath, right? And we have several dinners along the way and meet the team. And he said something very similar. They're in high demand. And we're proud of the fact that they picked us. And it came down to, I think, all those pieces coming together. It came down to having a Dr. Grant Stevens on the board, right? Dr. Vath can't speak more highly of someone than he speaks of you.
He's a little biased.
It came down to, it came down to the equity firm and they're only about healthcare, and they know how to deal with doctors and their track record of success. Track record of success.
As you know, every one of these deals, you have some equity.
Yep.
It's not just a cash deal.
For sure.
And if it doesn't go anywhere, that equity is worth nothing.
For sure.
But on the other hand, if the equity, if it does go somewhere, that equity could exceed all the cash.
Correct.
And that's what we all are hoping for.
You can generate
tax
significant
implications
wealth.
and all sorts of things. So it's more than just that purchase price.
It
figures into that. And I think they did that
calculus. And the third piece was the management team, right?
Yep.
And that management team is critical because, hey, any equity firm, right, they have investors and they need to pay those investors back, right? Mm-hmm. So whatever, if it's 4 to 6 years, I'm just speaking in generality right now with equity firms, and they invest in a portfolio, right, like ours, at some point, right, the goal is to have a transaction, whether that's 5 or 6 years from now. When that transaction happens, that management team stays here, mm-hmm. right? And I think that's one thing that really sets us apart, because when we're out meeting these folks, they get to meet the management team, they get to meet the equity firm, they get to understand our philosophy, and more powerful than any of it, they can call Dr. Stevens and ask how it went since last October. They can call Dr. Mentz and say, how's it been the last 5 months mm-hmm. with this management team? And I look forward to introducing future folks to our Denver group and saying, please speak on how we're doing, right? And we frequently ask those clinics how we're doing. I'm judged on, when you sign up with us, you're using our financial services, you're using our operations, or you're using us. We ask the doctors, if you had your choice of picking your marketing team or your finance team or your ops team or your sales team, would you choose us, right? And we're going to ask you that frequently. And if the answer is no, then we're focused on that area, right? Uh-huh. We want to be your professional management team that you are proud of, that delivers that value and that aligns and that's helping grow this healthy business, putting our patients first, investing and developing in our employees, and putting the business first, right? And that's one of the other things that's so fun about this. As you have boards and as you have management teams and as you're providing actual services to these centers, is the growth opportunity for these folks. So you have high-level management in Houston, ACPS, right? Uh-huh. You have high-level management in Denver with CCS, and it gives them opportunities to grow beyond just that single practice they were in, right? We have regions now. We have 4 regions. We have the Athenix region, right, mm-hmm. with 5 clinics. We have the Marina region, which we're looking to grow. We have the ACPS region, which we were there 2 weeks ago with the equity firm talking about our plans for expanding in Houston. That's their big opportunity right now. And now we just have the CCS mm-hmm. Region as well. And as the regions grow, and as we need to support and serve our doctors, the opportunities are going to grow. The opportunities for our doctors are going to grow, right? It was really nice to see not only you in the board meeting, right, but to have Dr. Mentz in the board meeting working on the strategy and the vision for this company. We had Dr. Morales in the board meeting working and participating at the highest levels on where we're going, what we're going to do, because you have to put your doctors first. The doctors have to be involved in the direction. And I look forward to having some Denver representation on the board as well. But as we build out clinical advisory boards and things like that, we're creating opportunities for every function in this organization that didn't exist while you were in private practice.
So I know that you're looking at other practices, and I know of a few that are in the process, if you will. And we can't reveal them. However, can you give us a feel for what you want to do in terms of practice acquisition? If a surgeon's watching this right now, a plastic surgeon, board-certified plastic surgeon, high quality,
that is true,
and they are curious, give the listeners and viewers a feel for what your plans are here.
Happy to.
In terms of acquisition.
So I was... in terms of acquisitions, having you on the board of directors is powerful. I don't know that all these deals get done without you in the middle of that and connecting. It's true. But to answer your question, we were at a potential acquisition target back east earlier this week, and it's one that you connected us with. Mm-hmm. And we sat down with that doctor, and that doctor said, "Hey, I just got to ask a question." He said, I'm not like an ACPS, right? Houston, I mean, it's a big, big thriving practice. I'm not like a CCS in Denver, big, big thriving practice. Why are you guys here talking to me, right? Mm-hmm. And what is your plan with number of centers going forward? And so I guess we have a couple answers there. We sat down as a leadership team in December and talked about our growth strategy, right? And how many centers we're going to open. And we have a unique opportunity here where we have three big growth levers. One is our existing business. We think by combining our best practices between the clinics, we can grow all the clinics. Okay. We are focused on de novo, so brand new build from the ground up in markets we don't exist in. And we had that launch this week in Scottsdale on Tuesday. So you have de novo. And then we had our acquisition ability, which is just so powerful, right? Because the day you partner with a Houston, the day you partner with a Denver, you just partnered with a gold mine of best practices and ideas. And so there's a lot of power. But we met in December and this is before Houston, right? It was right after Marina Del Rey. Uh-huh. And we kind of drew out a map of where we wanted to be. And I can tell you, we've gone much faster than we put in that plan. We looked at that plan the other day and we laugh at it a little bit because we're so excited about this aggressive plan, but partnering with a Houston that about doubled our business, right? Partnering with a Denver, right? If you take a look about 10 months ago, we're about triple the size we were, and it's so powerful. But there aren't that many Houstons. There aren't that many Denvers out there. And how we're going to do this successfully is partnering with very successful practices. You don't have to be a $30+ million practice, right, to do business with us. The two practices we're looking at this week don't fit that, right? You may have one or two doctors, smaller volume, really efficient. We want to pick the right doctor partners, right? Mm-hmm. And we go into those meetings and we're very honest about what we're about. Here's what our services are. Here's our culture, our values. Here's who we want to align with. And we want to find people that want to align with that. And a couple big ones are, we want someone with a growth mindset, right? We want to grow the business. We want to take care of a lot of people, and we want to grow. We're not buying practices that just want to stay as they are. And if you look at a Houston, if you look at a Denver, they're all about the growth, right? Denver purchased a surgery center up north that hasn't been opened yet, right? So we're excited to get up and running. We have an offer on some space in Houston to provide additional OR space because their big opportunity was growth. So we want people that want to grow regardless of the size. We want top tier board certified plastic surgeons, right? Okay. That want to grow, care about their staff, care deeply about their patients, have efficient operations, right? We're not buying turnarounds here. Mm-hmm. And then I think if you look at every group that we've partnered with, starting with you and Dr. Perez, who I just can't speak highly enough, and the other groups we talked about, this is a group of folks that has a learner's mindset, right? Mm-hmm. Which is it'd be very easy if I'm Dr. Mintz, right? and as successful as he has been and what he has built there, that's a guy that could probably sit back and say, yep, I figured it out. That is the first guy that says, man, if there's a better way to do this, please tell me. And he invites you into his practice. And so our management team, the first thing we've done in Houston, we just want to go in there and learn. And we are learning, we are documenting, we are helping them with their growth strategy for sure. But along the way, they're asking us for help. And so Anna went in there the other day. Anna's our executive vice president of sales. And Dr. Morales in ACPS raised his hand and said, hey, I got a new coordinator. I need a little help with her onboarding. And Anna went in there and shared some best practices. You know who she learned them from? Dr. Mentz. She documented his process, took it into Dr. Morales and team. And Dr. Morales stated at dinner the other night, he said, in the last 3 months, my business is up 25%, and that stuff is gold. But it is the power of being able to identify best practices, codify best practices, and share them. Right? Uh-huh. We don't come in and tell you what to do as a doctor. We don't do that. We won't do that. We will never do that. But we will identify best practices, connect people, and share. And the folks that have that open mind, like Dr. Mintz in Houston, like Dr. Morales did, like Dr. Vath and Wolf have opened their doors. They invited me out next week. They said, come out, take a look, provide any feedback you have for us, and we can't wait to learn, but they can't wait to teach. So growth mindset's critical, and learner's mindset, being open to share ideas and share what you figured out with the rest of the team, and being open to listen to different ways of people doing things, right?
Yeah.
And so if I were to describe it, we don't have a number of practices that we need to go out and be at X amount of practices, right? We're growing at a really nice clip, but we want the right partner that aligns with that philosophy. One of the most important things, right? I've been on several equity deals through ClearChoice, and even getting into this world, the doctors are critical, right? Retaining doctors, recruiting doctors, growing doctors, giving doctors a place that they want to be and don't want to leave, right? Because they're part of something bigger, and they're compensated fair, and they're supported from that management team. That's one of the first most important things that we have, and we need to treat our doctors as such if that's what you want to have. So as we look at it, we want the right partners with the right philosophy, and we don't have a number in mind.
Okay. But you would be interested in groups or in practices that have one surgeon or maybe one or two. You don't have only these mega practices.
Correct.
You'd be interested. So, because there are a number of people out there that have either they're sole practitioners or themselves and one other surgeon.
Correct. We had a wonderful meeting in Austin with a single doctor.
Okay, wonderful.
And we're moving forward with talking some next steps there. And then we were back east in the Philadelphia area, and talking to a 2-doctor clinic, right? So, they're going to be critical for our success and growth.
That's excellent. I'm kind of curious. Are you going to be at the Aesthetic Society meeting in Vancouver in April?
I am hoping to be and planning on it, unless there were a last-minute trip for something that threw it off. But yes,
I encourage you to go, and also to attend the Aesthetic Innovation Summit at the beginning, or AIS.
Yes.
I know I'm getting a lot of questions from my colleagues, and I know they would love to meet with you and Will and Steve and Nina and the team.
Yep.
And any other members of the team.
Yeah, and we like to have a nice presence at all those events. I kind of joked, right? Because sometimes you never know where you're going to be on a plane these days with all we have going on. But it's important for us to be there and to represent. We were down in South Florida with you,
yes.
I think in Miami not too long ago, meeting with potential groups, and so we like to do that. Your management team will be there. I'm the management team. Others will be there, but I represent management team, and then Lattis work goes on those as well. Dr. Mentz was just at an event down in San Antonio, and a Texas event, and we were there meeting with potential partners, and so it's critical. We're very active in those meetings and want to be and will be.
Good. I applaud that. I think that's fantastic because there's so many questions and there's so many firms trying to do this roll-up, as I just mentioned. I know you know that. You mentioned one practice. I think you said Matt's had 10 offers. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. It's definitely double digits.
Yep.
And for the physicians, the surgeons, to kind of evaluate the offers and decide what really speaks to them is important.
Yes.
And there's not one size fits all and there are many other options. But I'm struck by how many people are getting into this roll-up business. And I know at the Aesthetic Society we're going to have some panels on that very thing, the roll-ups. And we'll probably have it at AIS also.
And there's a lot of activity right now, but it is really early, right? If you look at urgent cares or dental, I mean, they're so much further down the spectrum. And we're just getting started on in the plastics world, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. It's brand new, and everyone's jumping into it. Yep. So it's going to be interesting to see which ones survive, which ones roll up to other ones, and consolidations and all the rest. It's a very exciting time.
Yes.
So this has been really interesting for me. I couldn't help but notice, though, you brought a crystal ball here today. Yeah. And I'd like to see.
I carry it with me.
I'd like to hear what you see in the future for this industry.
This industry is very early on. This industry is very early on because I think it's very difficult, right? Mm-hmm. As you look at individual practices with big doctor names, right? As you look at different groups who maybe haven't connected yet. And I think one of the reasons it's later than dental or urgent care or veterinary or whatever it might be, I throw veterinary in there, is because it's difficult. And I think people see the opportunity right now. Equity firms see the opportunity. I think clinics are seeing the opportunity. But I think what we're going to see here in the near future is where you have equity firms coming together right now and trying to purchase practices. I think you're going to see a lot of good, and I think you're going to see some tough times for people, right? Where if you are just concerned about the offer, right, and how much an equity firm is going to pay for me, without looking at what is actually built behind that, right? What Lattis Work is doing right now, investing in our management team, in our systems, the systems we're investing in right now, it's remarkable. In our processes, right? And I'm not going to get into all that today because I think we have a secret sauce that sets us apart. But if you're looking to partner with a group who's not investing in that management team and infrastructure, I can tell you it's not a cheap deal, right, to invest as heavily as Lattis Work is. But that's what's going to make us stand the test of time, right? I think some of the folks that are getting into this business and maybe they don't have the healthcare experience, maybe they're not used to working with doctors, maybe they haven't thought through how they're going to support from a management standpoint, and they're bolting a practice to a practice where there's no real meat or connection or value in that management team. I think you're going to see those groups have a difficult time through some of these transitions, right? And sometimes there's a lot of fear when equity comes to the table, right? We get that a lot, right? We're not coming in to change your brand. We're not coming in to change your processes. We're coming in to build value, to make those connections, focus on best practices, relieve that back office pressure so that you can do what? You can take care of your patients and that you can grow. And so I think that just the last thing I'll say is as we head down that road, I think the groups that have invested, I think the groups that have folks that know how to deal with doctors, that know how to grow businesses, that know how to grow multi-location businesses and get them up to speed successfully in a city that's never existed before, right? That's not an easy thing to do. And I think the individual clinics have trouble doing that on their own. So I think if you're looking at our management team, at Lattis Work, at our Athenix brand, at our Marina Plastic Surgery brand, at our ACPS Houston brand, our CCS Denver brand, built on a strong management team, a strong board of directors, and a strong equity firm, I think you're going to see a lot of success. I think you're going to see a platform with our 2 fellowships, right, that are critical for us and our growth as well. You're going to see those grow. You're going to see those thrive. And I think you're going to see our group be the #1 plastic surgery provider in the country, the #1 non-surgical services provider in the country that people want to be at, that we retain people. I mean, think about a world where we have you and Dr. Vath and Dr. Wolf and Mintz and Morales and Hustak, and I'm not naming them all, Perez, Dr. Dry, in one room, right, at our conferences, sharing best practices, presenting on difficult cases, presenting on technology that we're going down, right? That becomes such a powerful thing when we connect that network. We're going to do the same thing at the practice manager level. We're going to do the same thing at the coordinator level. And you have a team that knows how to do it. They've done it, we're doing it, and we're making wonderful progress. And I think you're going to see those groups that can do that and our group emerge as industry leaders, helping a lot of patients out there, providing a great platform for our employees, and having one heck of a healthy business.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, Mr. President, I agree with you entirely.
Thank you. It's
well,
exciting.
I want to thank you for coming all the way out here and spending the afternoon with us.
Happy
spending
to.
This valuable time.
Happy to.
And are you flying home tonight?
I am flying home tonight.
Well,
I'm
good.
a true ops guy. I have 2 flights this afternoon, just depending on the time. So,
well, great.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and thanks
you're
for all
welcome.
the support.
And thank you all for joining me today, or joining us today on the Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And as you saw today was no exception. With Mike Burke, the president of Athenix, and we welcome you back next Tuesday. We're on every Tuesday, a new show every week. Take care.